Good morning and welcome to Duality. I'm here with my special guest, Jay Spades, and we are going to talk about a few different topics. But before we get into everything, we have a incredible band member over here, Lori Love, going to play the Throat Chakra Bowl to just kind of get us all present and grounded and ready to speak our truth for everybody who's tuning in now, whoever will tune in, for us to just all take a breath and get resonant in this present moment. So I invite you all to get comfortable with being uncomfortable because that's life. And take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Allow yourself to receive the vibrations. Thank you. Thank you. That was bad. That was needed. That was needed. I miss the bowls being here to intro. Honestly, I need to bring that back. For all of those who have been tuning into Duality and know how we did the Seven Chakra series, and each week we were playing a different bowl. And I really like the idea of just grounding into the present moment prior to speaking. I think that it's really important that we do that and carry that practice in our everyday life. And it brings a lot more peace for ourselves, most of all. So, yeah, today's topic is going to be about ourselves and who are we and who are you
Who are you?
in theme of Alice in Wonderland. I'm sitting with the Mad Hatter. We're sipping our tea out of glass. Cheers.
There we are.
And the topic at hand is definitely something that I think is really important and crucial. I know that a lot of us experience this, and if not all of us experience this in different ways. So in the light of this being the last episode before Valentine's Day in February, and I wanted to kind of touch base on how to not lose your core when you're in a relationship and or when you're dating, and also how that could trickle out into all relationships. Like naturally that can trickle out into friendships and work environments and family, and how to just maintain your core. But I find very specifically that when people start to date others and something new, like a new love kind of experience, that it's really hard to stay grounded in that self, where it's like you're excited and these different things start happening, and it's like you almost like people pleasing tendencies, and these different shadows come out, and it's like, oh well, I don't want to show this because I don't want to show all my cards. I don't want to, I want to hide this.
If you're smart about it.
Yeah, well,
if you're experienced.
Maybe.
Are you experienced?
Maybe. Or one would say if you're smart about it, to show your whole hand. It really depends on the person and on what is received. Like, I believe that it's more bold and more authentic to the person when they do say everything.
Because you find your intention in it.
Yeah.
Where does it start? Because what foot you start on can end up the foot you land on. Mm-hmm. If it started with a false step, you can always pick yourself up and continue the dance. Mm-hmm. Make it part of the dance. Mm-hmm. But if you already step off where you have shit intention, it's null intention. It doesn't really build. It's not ground to build on.
What gets done in the dark always comes to light. So at the end of the day, if it's a year, some people are in a relationship with another and they don't know their partner for years, and then they find out 3 years later all this shit about them, and they're like, who am I with? Some people get married to people and they don't know who their partner is until a certain circumstance or situation will happen, and they see their reaction, and or they find something out, and God forbid it's really harmful to them as well. So I think that it takes an immense amount of courage to be honest and straight up with people upon meeting them. And, you know, it's something that could get very uncomfortable because if you're not consistently doing that within yourself, like, how could you possibly do that with somebody else?
I mean, if it's not equal in that sense, because you could do that, and that's what I do. Always, first step is like, yo, no smoke and mirrors. Here's how it is.
Yeah.
And then that leaves it open. It gives the ball in their court to give that respect and that like back, you know, that return of it. Or you find out 2 years later that you never knew this person.
Yeah.
But when you fall in love, for me, I feel like it kind of is like there's like a scene in the show Yu-Gi-Oh! Back in the day. And when he goes into the Millennium Puzzle, he goes into a different part of his mind, of his mirror, like a different part of his soul, which is when you find your soul mate, your mate to soul, your mirror of soul, your reflection. So he goes into this little box, and the box holds the other ancient side of him. So then this box is like a labyrinth, and it's all these stepways and different paths, and there's doors. So when you go into a relationship, it's kind of like you open the door to their mind, which also is your mind, because it's a pathway which you're both intertwined and connected on so many levels. So then it's like when you knock on the door, sometimes you just open it, sometimes it's unlocked, sometimes it has like a puzzle to it. Some locks are completely hidden to the point where they never unlock that door for you, you know?
No, that's
nobody
a really
owes you
great
that, though.
elaboration on that. No, nobody does owe you
Nobody
that,
owes
but
you that truth.
you give that to yourself. And that's what's really cool about the whole process is like you get to give that to yourself. You get to figure out and find the keys and open up the doors, and then after you open up the doors, you don't need the keys anymore because you've already walked through there.
There we go.
So
Exactly.
I'm like I just completely went rogue on not going live on my Instagram, and I realized that. So I was just like, all right, you know what? It wasn't supposed to be.
We're here.
We're here. And I think that exactly what you said is really important, and that brings light onto another topic, which is soulmates, twin flames. There's a lot of different things that, a lot of different terms for different things. And I feel like I didn't realize that we were going to talk about this today, but, you know, I'm looking over there at this fire. I'm looking over here at this woman. I'm looking, you know, and there's just things around and cues. And, you know, what is the difference between twin flame and soulmate? Is that something that you've like unpacked a little bit or like looked into?
Well, I believe everybody has a different version of soulmates, right? I think that you don't necessarily have one. It's impossible. It can't be. It's an energetic, like, key to unlocking your future self, in which when people meet one another, they're attracted to certain traits of that person. They don't even realize that that's a part of them. Like,
It's so interesting how we are attracted to people that remind us of ourselves.
ooh, vain as fuck. Oh my god. For me, like, yo, if she look like me, I'm interested. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy as
It's like
hell.
I feel like that's what we usually end up like actually like first off being with anyone. It's like resonance, right?
Yo,
it's like,
crazy.
oh my god, me and this person, we link like this,
Yo.
and we are like this, and it's like fuck. Like,
Secretly though, I'm like, damn, I love me, and I kind of like be like, I want to love me some more, but this person's just like me. Like, oh shit.
catalyst to self-love.
There we go.
Doesn't have to be a bad thing. Also doesn't have to be selfish, because when you find the balance of that and when you get to acknowledge like, hey, I like this about this person because it reminds me of me, or hey, I like this about this person because it reminds me of what I'd like to be.
And that's when you unlock and discover a part of yourself. You're like literally like, I didn't know I was an artist. I didn't know I paint. I had no idea. I didn't know that I loved fashion until I met this girl. And then she brought me to my first thrift shop
Or
in
you
Brooklyn.
did know, and now you're just seeing that it's something you're supposed to pursue more. And that's the thing. When you get into these themes, right, it's like if you look at all of the people you've dated, you know, there's going to be different common denominators that you'll find. Like, they could be all completely different people, but you could find things. You can find things either within them or within yourself, what you were attracted to. And, you know, naturally there's in life ebbs and flows, highs and lows. So at times in a lower place, we might have been attracted to something that might be more considered toxic. But then again, it was still something you wanted because there was an escape or something, or that person had something that they were doing. Still, even if it wasn't healthy, it was something
You were
you
drawn
wanted,
to
you were
it.
attracted to
Drawn
it
to
because
that.
you felt you needed it at the time. So if you're trying to escape from reality and you are with somebody who's escaping from reality in a not so whatever way, no judgment on that. Like, because I could look back, even speaking on myself, like looking at that and seeing those different times where that came in, you know, and then also just looking at different themes and seeing how I realized, okay, well, everybody that I'm dating has this in common, and all of them having this in
Yep.
common. Maybe I should look at that. Like, what
Exactly.
is that telling me? You know, like maybe I should explore more into, you know, music or whatever it is. And that is just really interesting how it comes up. So it's like when you are in a relationship and or dating and or just paying attention to who you resonate with.
Who are you?
Who?
How are you?
And when you start paying attention, you start paying attention to yourself. It's a perspective change. It's like, especially like for those people who tend to be more on the codependent side. Like there's two spectrums, you know, one people that tend to be more in themselves and people that tend to be more codependent. Doesn't mean that you have to take these titles and own them, but it's just being honest with yourself. Like, where do you come? Do you help others before you help yourself, or do you help yourself first and like forget about others? So it's like wherever you're at, you find the balance and, you know, you apply that. So like for those who are more in the codependent spectrum, like myself, that I have been and have worked through, and the only reason how I can identify that is by looking at myself and accepting why I was the way I was and then moving forward with it. But I can't, and if I don't like acknowledge it, and it's also not something for me to feel ashamed for. You know, it's like it'll empower you, and it doesn't make you, and this is something that's really important too, it doesn't make you better of a person to care about people before yourself. It doesn't make you worse of a person for you to only care about yourself. It just means like
It's
a balance is needed.
It's your part in the system.
Yeah.
So
And also balance is needed naturally if you're not taking anyone into consideration,
absolutely.
or if you're not taking yourself into consideration, all like
your life's going to be unbalanced.
exactly, and it's just going to show up everywhere.
But I mean, as far as the difference between codependent people in relationships, which there are a lot of them out there where they always have to be with someone. You know, they can never be alone.
Yeah.
It's a thing. And then there's other people that have like more of like a lone, not necessarily a loner, but like a lone wolf kind of energy, which is I can be alone for 5 years. I don't have to be in love or be searching for it, because I can sit down myself. I love the shit out of myself, you know, like I love me, so I don't need to be searching elsewhere for that love.
Yeah.
You know, it turns into something that's lonely, and obviously as human beings, we need a mate, and we will always have this innate feeling to connect onto something. But there's nothing wrong with being a codependent person, because that's your place. That's your coding requires you to be connected.
Well, yeah, but like we
know?
were saying before, naturally with a balance. You know, naturally with a balance. I believe that you can start off one way and hopefully you don't end up the other way. You just end up balanced. I believe that there's a reason for that. You know, like maybe in a past life you were so selfish and now you're making up for it. You know, maybe like or maybe it's just manifested in this life. If you want to get more grounded in the technicality of like psychology, it's like maybe, you know, you were constantly shown that you were not receiving attention, so like instantly you looked at other people and you were like, oh, okay, like so I must not be worthy. As a child you think these things without realizing,
Subconsciously.
and then you're like, oh, okay, well I'm going to do for others, or you realize like when you do for others you feel good. But that's the thing that people don't like to talk about. It's like you're not going to do something if you don't gain it. Doesn't make you a bad person. Just be honest about it with yourself. That's the most important thing. It's like if you're going to do something for someone, it's like, yo, yeah, it's good, I want to do this genuinely.
Yeah.
But it's still going to make you feel good. So you're still getting that from it.
And
you don't have to hold it over your head like, oh, I'm expecting you to do something now.
a lot of people do.
Of course.
A lot.
Well,
that's
something-
scary out there. It's scary out there because that's when you can't tell who's real at that point, because there's a type of person, and I noticed this traveling to California, is that when they say that there's like a fakeness to California's people. In New York City, we will do something for you that we generally just did out of our consciousness. It's like, yo, I'm gonna hold this door open for you.
Yeah.
Then, and I'm not saying it's not just because there's people in New York that
we don't have
suck
time
too.
to fake it. That's what it is.
Exactly. Like,
That's a New York
I'm
thing.
just generally doing this because everybody's
I'm just
having a bad
holding
day
it.
because it's cold as fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, yo, it's brick. Like,
I'm just holding
trying
the
to-
store because
I'm
I
trying to
lately
give you
thought
some
about
love.
it. I didn't really think too
Like,
much about it here.
Exactly, but
experience that.
certain people will be like, yo, I just opened the door for you, and they'll get mad if someone didn't say
Doesn't
thank you.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't part of the deal.
That's like it was like something I was saying the other day. I think I was like tweeting about it. I was saying how, actually it's really weird. I don't know how it's relevant, but I feel like it'll cycle. But I said that because I think it's really weird on Venmo when it's not private. Like I think it's really
Depending
weird.
on what it is.
I guess I know
Yeah.
it's funny and jokes and stuff. Like, I don't know. I think it's weird. I think that I don't know. It's
Yeah,
weird for me.
no. I
But
was
there-
thinking the same thing when I was on Venmo yesterday.
But there are certain things that like I said like people that All right, let me just put this out there. Like my ego really lives on Twitter, so I'm just gonna like put that out there before I say.
Tweet.
But I said Venmo is like the same. Venmo people that don't go on private are like the same as people who put a tip in the tip jar and wait for the person to make eye contact with them to see it.
Oh my god.
Because it's like if you're
Oh
putting a
my
tip, you're putting a
God.
tip because you want to put a tip. You don't have to get
Yo.
the credit because then like people I know even as a person working in service, like when someone puts a tip, like I feel them waiting for me. And like sometimes I purposely don't say thank you, or I'll just like I'll say thank you in my head and I'll just do something else so that they sit with that. They sit with that space,
Oh my
that heavy
God.
space of what is it that why are you doing something?
It's like holding the door open and waiting for them to walk through.
Yeah.
And just like, okay,
It's that
like,
empty
obnoxiously
space.
long, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna lie, there's certain times where I see that someone's having a rough day,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll wait till they see that I tipped them, like to let them know you're awesome.
But it makes you feel good. That's
like
why.
but
And
at
that's
the same
okay.
time, I want to make them
Feel good.
have that moment.
Yeah.
So I'll wait sometimes.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
That's
But there's
okay.
other people that are like, I want
Well,
you
they
to know
need
that
it-
I'm a
they
good
need it in the
person.
moment.
Like,
They need the
They're-
validation. Which brings us to another point. Self-validating. So everything that we do when we lose ourselves or, veer away from our core selves or our core just in general, whether in conversation and dating and anything, is usually based in needing validation from external validation from outside of us. How do we solve that? We start validating ourselves in these moments that we feel we want to feel good, right? Why don't we tip ourselves? Why don't we make a little tip jar to make ourselves feel good? You
All
know?
it takes is taking a deep breath and getting quiet with yourself.
Sometimes that's the case and sometimes it's not the case. Sometimes it's literally just like give yourself a hug. Sometimes it's going to take a shower. Everyone is different. I know like there's something that had came up not too long ago and it's funny because naturally like I teach meditation. I do a lot of things centered around like spirituality and stuff like that. Besides that, it's not my only it's not my final form.
Hey.
But it's something that I definitely do center a lot and but I don't always meditate. Meditation isn't always good for me. And the reason why I say that, like, of course, taking a deep breath and getting present is. But the concept of meditation, so let me rephrase that. The concept of meditation, where you need to sit down and you need to be a certain way. I'm like, I need no help in feeling inadequate. Thank you.
Oh my God.
I don't need to feel like I'm not sitting right or I'm not breathing right or I'm not doing something right.
Structured, yeah.
Exactly. Like and there was a psychologist that was talking on this, and shout out to my friend Sam Zaru, like she had posted it. It was talking about how people who have PTSD, people who are in a lot of shock and trauma, sometimes can't sit like and do that because when you start, then it brings more anxiety. So people are like, I don't understand, I can't meditate, and it's like it's okay. Like you don't have to call it meditation. Just take a time and space to find yourself and be present. Bring yourself to your breath. Even if you're walking, if you're talking, if you're singing, whatever it is, do something that makes you feel more like you. You don't have to label it meditation.
Outlet.
Yeah, and that's how you validate yourself because you listen to yourself at those times. And when I like to break down meditation, it's also like we're sitting having a conversation. I come to you and I'm like, yo, listen, Jay, like I am going through it, XYZ. Here is like, everything, and you're listening to it and you're holding that space for me. Meditation is you doing that for yourself. So how long are you going to listen to yourself in your mind? Or are you going to attack yourself? So the thing is, every time you start to be mean, every time it starts to be uncomfortable and scary in your head, taking that breath or like taking that moment to just go back into your body and being like, breathe, you know, and then even counting things that you're grateful for, you know, counting things around you. Like if you're so in your head, start like, okay, there's a window, there's a wall, here's my fingers, roof. I can speak, I can hear, I can smell, I can taste, I can feel, you know, I'm grateful for these things.
Gratefulness was the first step that cracked my awakening. That was the one when I had a drummer and Sandy happened. And I lost my house, obviously. I witnessed some crazy shit. And afterwards, I went through that with my parents. You know, a lot of people I know weren't in those waters. A lot of people I know did not actually touch the water and were not neck deep in Sandy's waters. And after losing the house, all this da-da-da-da-da, I was moving place to place. I had no place for a while. And I was sitting down with my drummer one day, having coffee. I'll never forget it. I'll never, ever, ever forget this moment because it cracked me. Shout out Vinny Rizzo, my man. I said something about my parents and this and that, and I'm so grateful. Like now, getting there, but not when you're getting there, you see it, but are you implementing it? Are you practicing what you preach? Please tell me, because most people, but like none of them are hands-on. So it's like, I said something about my parents and gratefulness and he goes, because he watched me. He was older, so he was keen on this. He watched me and he was like, how are you grateful for them? Just hit me with it real quick. How? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, how are you grateful? What do you do for them? When they actually take out the garbage, do you take out the garbage? Do you take out the garbage when they don't ask? Do you clean the dishes that are in the sink that aren't yours? Do you go out and pick up anything for them or figure this out or help them out? What do you do on a daily basis to let it be known, like to give your gratefulness? So in that space, when you are grateful every single day and you wake up, it's tapping into a divine helping of yourself. That is loving yourself because it takes a dose of gratefulness to truly find peace. And you start to get there, and you start, because that once I hit that grateful spot and he hit me with that question, I was never the same after, because I started waking up and being actively grateful.
Yeah, which it gives it, just as it gives a different sense of reward to self. You feel good because you're helping more people around you too. You know, so it's as within as without. Like you're it's both. It's in and out. It's balance. You know, you find that harmony. You know, you're not just saying one thing and then beating yourself up for not following it through. You're actually doing it. You're showing it. You're embodying it. You don't have to talk about it because you're embodying it. You don't have to be like, yo, I'm mad authentic when you're mad authentic.
Absolutely not.
You just
Yeah,
are.
Yeah, absolutely not.
You just are.
And
know?
The sick thing is, it either slices or it doesn't. If you're truly authentic and you're truly genuine, it doesn't need to be. It hits so hard.
I've said that to so many
hard.
people, like, especially, like, I have a lot of friends that are musicians too. I mean, you being a friend that's a musician, which we'll get into. But like most majority of my friends are and always have been, like, growing up. And sometimes people ask me to listen to songs, and sometimes they're not like where they could be. And why? Why is that? Because they don't live what they're saying.
You ain't tapped in to yourself.
And it's like, it's like such a different, it's like when someone's like, yo, like, I'm over here, like, doing this, doing that, and you know them personally, it's not even in their morality to do so. It doesn't slap. So it's like what you're saying doesn't slap because it's not real. It's
not authentic. It's not coming from a genuine place.
It's not, no, it's coming from the fact that it's based off of a thought that it might slap. Yeah. That's not how it slaps. A thought that it might slap is not going to make something slap.
Like, you just want to get on stage in front of 10,000 people and get that validation.
And that's the thing.
Know,
that's
certain people, why they do it. It's your reasoning. It's
absolutely.
Where it comes from. Well, and music is the most beautiful thing because it'll let you know that you're being inauthentic. When I'm thinking too much, I can't play guitar. When I'm thinking, I can't write songs. When I'm thinking, I can't play with musicians. And I will sound... my 15 years of playing will literally be like I just picked up the guitar yesterday if I'm too much up here and I'm thinking too much, because that's inauthentic. Because authenticity comes naturally. It flows like butter. There is no trying. The word try doesn't exist if you're authentic, because you wake up like that. You don't try. You don't put in the effort to go, oh, I want to be so-and-so. Oh, so-and-so dresses like this. It's like, do you even like
It's
that?
not
Do
a
you even like
thought.
that color? Do you even, why do you wear it? Oh, blah, blah, blah. Like, do you even like that thing that you're wearing? Or do you even like playing music? Like, what? Like, if you don't wake up and do it naturally, it's going to cause a lot of like really self-doubt, and you're gonna hurt yourself a lot by doing something that you don't want to actually do. It's gonna break your character.
It breaks
a
your
lot.
character, and it doesn't hold weight. It doesn't hold integrity,
Mm-hmm.
and it's felt not only by everyone else but by yourself. And if you're not taking that time to go back into yourself and get present,
Be
then
true to yourself.
you're not gonna
Yeah.
understand what's your poison.
Mm-hmm.
You're just gonna be like, oh, I feel like. Da, 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 and whatever the case is, and I don't feel good,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't know where it's coming from. So the only way that you can pinpoint where it's coming from is if you pay attention and you start to look.
Listen to yourself.
You know,
Like,
exactly.
listen to
Literally,
yourself.
listen to yourself.
Like,
I feel like
for real. It took me the longest time to just do that, to like shut up and stop playing and actually hear the notes I was playing. I'm
and
doing
in
that
between
now.
them, too.
Like,
And the
that's
silence in between the notes. That's something that's so important. That's something that after when I started to come back doing the podcast, when I was originally doing it with after with Ariel and then with Nev, when I first came back, I was just coming out of this kind of traumatic experience out in when I had moved to Brooklyn. And I remember when I had packed up all of my stuff and I was moving back to Staten Island, I was thinking about that exact moment, because everything was such chaos and I was so heartbroken about everything that was happening around me. And I was listening to music, and then I stopped listening to the music and I started paying attention to what I would think when I wasn't singing. And in those moments of silence, in between the notes, in between the words, in between the songs, those pauses, where does my mind go? Instead of just quickly clicking next, instead of quickly waiting for the next like note to hit, or or singing it early because I don't even want the silence, and inserting things that don't belong
being
there.
with thyself.
Choosing to do that, and that has been like a key.
I mean, it's
intended.
quoted by it's quoted by Flea from the Chili Peppers. He says a note that is constant. If you have constant notes as opposed to a note that you wait 30 seconds on, that you can hit a million notes. You could do the craziest guitar solo. You could do the craziest note thing. You know, it's the most genius thing in the world. But it's literally actually proven apparently scientifically. A note after 30 seconds of pause will hit a million times harder than a note right next to another.
Because
The
you're bringing
weight-
yourself back to yourself. That's
the
like you.
weight.
It's the
And when it
pause,
comes
and then it's just
in,
like,
it hits so right. And
That's why drops
less is
hit.
more.
yeah.
Less is always more in that case, because
Makes so much sense.
if you hold the note, oh my God, I had a homie of mine shock this out of me. It was like a really bad habit for a long time where I just couldn't sit still and I just couldn't play one note and I had to do too much. And because of that, it was like the biggest thing in which this guy gave me the key to. He literally gave me the key to this door. And he's very, very blessed gospel musician. Very holy. Shout out Mark Mensah Wayafe, one of my mentors. And he literally sat me down with a guitar. And he doesn't even play guitar, but he's blessed. And he picked it up a year ago, and he plays better than I do. And he goes, just hit one note. Let it ring. And I was like, da, da. And then I'd go to the next one. I couldn't just chill on the note. And he goes, stop. Stop. Just stop. He goes, you're sick. He goes, he starts laughing, and it wasn't a demeaning thing. He goes, yo, you're sick. Like, your brain, like, you're sick. You can't take that moment. You need to wake up out of that. It's social conditioning, essentially. Like, it
So
goes
many
deep.
different
It's
things.
rooted.
That's something that we were talking about the other day on the phone. It's like, I was even saying there was a moment that I was on the phone prior talking to Josh, shout out to Ja. And I every time I'm really working on this whole, like, really be present. Like, naturally we're always working on it, but it's like a different layer of it, whatever. And like listening to Eckhart Tolle, Power of Now, and like I was touching on this in my previous podcast before this, but it's something that's important. I feel like I want to repeat it. It's like, I didn't realize that my ADHD was, or like symptomatic ADHD, is literally just not wanting to be in the moment. It's distraction of being in the moment. So it's like, and then it becomes habit, right? And then it's like, even when you want to be in the moment, you're just exerting habitual behavior.
Your brain's on wire.
Yeah,
like
so
it's on
you're just like,
supercharge.
I was on the phone that I was doing my best to be present to, but then I started scrolling while I was on my phone, having it on speaker, and then I was like, wait, no.
And
when
then
I
you
stopped
don't even
doing
do the
that-
combo anymore.
No, and then
You forgot what they said.
Which is hard. Like I feel like because of years of being like this, I'm a good like 70-30.
Multitasker.
I'm a good 70-30 with that. So it's like I might not hear 100% what you're saying, but I heard 70%. You have that, and then but once I stopped doing that, I got up and I started pacing because now I'm walking and talking. Then when I realized I was doing that, I went into the bathroom and I was tweezing my eyebrows, and it's like I'm doing these, and then I was. But what helped me was saying it out loud. Like I was like, Ja, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. I'd never realized that my ADHD is just coming from the fact that I didn't want to be in a moment. So there's I'm sure one or plenty of different circumstances when I was a child and being in the moment was a threat. So in order to survive, I had to escape.
Conditioned.
So escaping into whether it was video games or music or hitting my CD player or talking to my stuffed animals or going outside and looking at the sky, like whatever it was, and that's what started that behavior, and then that manifests. So how, and it's like, oh, okay, I don't have to end with, I have ADHD, period.
Yeah.
Now I'm stuck with this. It's like, no, it's an avid thing that you work with and you learn, like, go back to that breath. Go back to that one note. How do you feel when that one note hits? How do you feel when something drops?
Open.
It's like
open.
It's just like complete.
That's when God comes through. That's when the universe opens up.
Like
to you.
it's like your soul starts to like wander, and then someone slam dunks it right back into your body.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh shit, that's slam, like that's crazy.
Hail Mary straight the fucking.
For real, it's crazy.
Dude, it's intense, and it really is. And that's the thing you'll see is with certain musicians, like a lot of music that you love. They just let that chord chill. Like a lot of hit songs and a lot of powerful music. They just.
People sleep on the cowbell. Like I was having this conversation the other day. I was talking to shout out to Chuck and Alexis. And like someone had said like she was doing a game and they were like, oh, what instrument would you be? And someone said to her, like, she would be the triangle. And she was, like, sitting with that. Like, I don't know. She was kind of, like, if she felt good or bad, she was kind of sitting with it. I was like, that's lit. Like, you make a song with just one sound. You just, like, and then I'm like, if I was an instrument, I feel like I would definitely be a drum, like a shamanic drum like that.
They have, like, the slap drums.
Or, like, I love drums. Yeah, I love drums. Like, I feel like I would be drums in one side or the other. But I feel like I would be the cowbell. I really feel like I would be that thing.
It cuts, it grounds.
It brings you back.
Grounds
you. What is it when you're listening to Spanish music, when you're listening to reggaeton, when you're listening to like salsa music or any kind of like Spanish music, when I think of like family parties and stuff, and like once you hear it, your hips just to each of the bell. It's just it takes you. It takes you, and your body responds to it. You won't even be thinking you're dancing. Meanwhile, you're walking and you're like.
That's like a singing bowl, but to you. It hits a certain kind of tone in your body that just resonates so hard. I mean, you listen to any percussion, I think a cowbell might cut through more than any other percussion instrument. Probably more than a snare. Literally. It's intense.
It's so good. It's just like...
It really is. It definitely grounds you.
I feel like the more... I would say, like, the more you get older, the more you want to simplify things. But it's not even... Yes, the... amount of returns around the sun, of course, like that does play an effect. But the more knowledge you acquire, the more appealing simplicity is, I find. Because I love to do the most. But at the same time, I also like really simple things. And I think like that's a balance that I love about myself. Because it's like, I will like express something. We always talk about this because we both do the most when it comes to like dressing. Because we love to express ourselves in that way. We're like, with our Leo placements are in our hair.
I need
our
the big hair.
And, like,
I got
we
like
always,
20 chains on usually.
It just makes sense. I'm always like, wow, great. You did a great job.
Exactly.
And like, it's like, I understand that. But then also at the times, like, I might not be simplistic with my appearance. But then certain things I'll say or certain things I'll do will be really just like
subtle,
done,
but it cuts so deep, and it's just as a musician,
so much intention.
It teaches you a lot about yourself, the world, and everything, the way it works. Because if you hit a bad note, it's no different than being in conversation and saying the wrong thing. saying something you really shouldn't have said.
But that's the thing.
Like-
How do you respond after that?
Well, you learn, or
But
you
how do
just
you
get
move
beat
with
up
it?
by life.
By yourself,
Yeah.
most of all.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you move with it? Like,
How do
it's,
you have to learn. It's experience.
that's
It's
the thing
experience.
that's the thing about doing live is like you throw yourself into this experience where it's like, oh, okay, you know, like
Jumping on
come
stage.
over here and you're like, oh, okay, I messed up, but like, what do I do about it? Because if I don't do this live, you guys won't get a podcast straight up, because I will sit here and I will be so tedious
Oh
in
my
the way
God.
that I edit it. I'm like,
I
I
ain't
said
releasing it. No,
7 times. I can't do it. Makes no sense. Can't do it. Hypercritical on self.
Oh,
I'm
God,
like, oh,
that
I
was
said
so
this, I did
stupid.
that. Or like, yeah, and it's like, and I think too much. So that's the whole purpose. It's like even now, like we sat. Every week I write down a list of things I'm gonna talk about, and there was a book covering it because I don't
Didn't
use
even look
it.
at it
Didn't
once.
even look at
Didn't
it.
need it.
Because when you're in the moment, it just flows.
You channel.
You're in a flow state.
You
Exactly.
channel, and it's simple. You know, you just be with it. You don't
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah.
Lose that thought.
Yeah.
Just drop that.
And that-
drop that. You know, it really is crazy. The more simplistic that life gets, and the more you learn as you get older, less becomes more. Like just straight up, because if you know what you're doing, words came from somewhere. They're very simple. A yes and a no. They're one word, but they mean the world. Yes and no are world-changing words.
Yeah.
Literally, and it's just one word, 3 letters, 2 letters. So it's like when you do less and you learn how to work with it, you cut. Because my biggest problem was I would always be too excited and like a little puppy dog, and I would do too much. I lost sessions like that. But through experience and through faith and through learning, I wasn't meant for those sessions anyway. So my natural...
You're also learning. You're also learning in that moment. And something you
Oh, yeah,
said
how to be a
just lit up.
professional about stuff.
It also just lit something up in my head where it was like, I know for myself, when I speak on myself with this, is like maybe in certain circumstances I do the most, which not even maybe, I know I do the most or have done the most in certain circumstances. And that was birthed from a fear of not being able to do something. So it was like, I need to do everything right now because subconscious fear of either I might not ever be able to do it again because XYZ or whatever the case is. So it's like a
Times
scarcity thing, you know,
That
like
survival shit comes in.
exactly. So it's like it manifests in different ways, you know. So like there's certain things like when I notice that, like with oversharing, right? When I overshare and I'm like so anxious, I'm like, oh my god, now everyone knows everything. This is time ahead. Now I'm like, I'm seeming like I'm crazy. Like, oh my god, everyone knows I'm crazy. Like I know it, but it's okay. I'm dealing with
It's
it.
okay.
And
I'm
like,
crazy. I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna let them all know what's up.
It's like that's the thing. It's like also just doing something with your chest. Like even when you get something done, and like you know something that. Shout out to Bree. You know Bree. I love you, Bree. I love you so much. Shout out to Bree. Like she like I'll say something like sometimes I'll post, you know, if any of you guys follow me on Instagram, I won't post anything on my story, and then I'll post 70 things in my story. And it'll be like, really, like I invite you into my life.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, like this is going on. Here's my rant. It used to be car rants. Now it's been like living room rants recently.
Hey,
But
it's all rants all day, all night.
yeah, but it's like it's good. I love it. And but at the same token, sometimes I don't. And like I don't really smoke often. Like, but if I do smoke, I'll be like, I gotta delete it.
I got
delete all
I got
of
lost
this.
in the sauce.
I'll be like, because I get hypercritical because I don't really
Yeah.
smoke weed like that. But when I do, if it's not like parental like regs, then I'm not like I am too in my head. This is why I don't smoke really.
Yeah.
So and it just doesn't suit me. And medicine that worked for me a while ago, it
course.
doesn't really anymore, and that's okay, and I accept that. But like I will like be like, all right, I need to erase all of these things.
Hey,
And that brings
nothing
us
wrong with
back
that.
to what we're talking about. Like, is there? No, because if I didn't smoke, would I be so hypercritical on myself in that way?
I mean, if you didn't smoke, maybe you wouldn't have shared or spoke those things in the first place.
But usually it's when I didn't smoke. It's usually
Okay.
I did it, I
Yeah.
smoked, and then I did, and I'm like, oh no. So like Bree, like the reason why I mentioned Bree, not to just mention Bree, I love mentioning Bree, but
Hi, Bree.
Bree Bean. She will be like, no, leave it. You did that. Do it with your whole chest. You already did it.
True.
Like you did it.
No,
Own
for sure,
it.
for
And
sure.
I'm like, you know what? You're right. So every time I
For
go to like
sure.
go back on something I said or did, I'll think of Bree being like, now own that shit. I'm like, now you're right, Bree.
Yeah.
Now you're right. Like, you know, you hear someone's voice in your head and you're like,
Especially, yeah.
like, you know, thank you. Which brings us
Check
back to
yourself.
like our like heart of the conversation. Everything that we talked about pertains to that, how to not lose yourself. So I even lose myself in I would even be say I'm dating somebody and like I'm starting to date someone, I'm dating them and I have something on my story and I'm being like super vulnerable and now I'm like, oh my god, this person's gonna see this story, like, oh, I should fucking delete this, what the fuck, you know, like sometimes you do shit like that and you're like, fuck. I don't want them to see me in my manic state, but it's like, but why not?
This is who you are.
If that's a person you're supposed to be with,
who are you?
They're gonna like that part of you. You know what I mean?
And you know, it's unconditional love. They're gonna like every part of you, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because that's me. You know, I'm me, and especially if you're the type of person that really,
even if they don't like it, they will accept it.
Yeah, even if they don't like, and also if it's no harm, no foul, if it comes from an innocent place, like this, I'm innocently telling you how I feel. You know, and it's also not biased. It's like literally just an open thought.
It's just
like,
how I feel.
Yo, I love the fact that cloud is mad poofy. Like, I don't know, or the shape of that cloud is beautiful. Or I like that blue sky right now. Like, I'm just being really innocent where there's no good, bad, or ugly. And I'm being a weirdo. Essentially, like, oh my god, like this petal of this flower and
which we're all weird. Like, this is the thing.
Yeah.
It's like the ego. Like, I was just doing this thing yesterday where I was being very Twitter on Facebook, and like one of the things I said is like ego be like, nobody understands. Like, I'm different than everybody, and it's like, yo, listen,
different.
We're different. We're different, but we are all also the same. Like, it's a balance.
Point.
So when you start isolating yourself, like, I'm the most different person. Like,
self-sabotage.
It's and it's also like this disconnect, and it's like a way to feel better. And it's
ego.
like even if you don't, which ego? What is ego? Like, unpack ego for a second. Ego is a construct that we've created to protect ourselves. Like since we're little, like born, like we have to have ego birthed in us. Like, one of the first chakras that is developing is our survival chakra, which is our root chakra, and that's developing to survive. So I know if I cry, my mom's gonna pay attention to me, so I'm gonna cry because I'm hungry, and if I don't eat, I feel like I'm gonna die because I was just born. So what the fuck is life, you know? And like that's baby stuff, like that's baby ego. Now baby ego manifests into adult ego, but you need to check and understand and dissect and let go of things that don't no longer serve you. If you're not consistently communicating with your ego, having a business meeting, okay, ego, soul, higher self, let's have a business meeting. Ego being, okay, this is what I'm afraid of, and this is what I need to protect myself with right now, right? Or in the future, or whatever the case is. Then your higher self is like, I know what I'm doing next. I trust that. And then your soul is like, I know what I'm doing all the time. What do you mean? I know what I'm born for. So you have these three aspects of yourself. And when you call a business meeting like, hey guys, let's sit down, and you're not jumping ego, like, ego, you're so stupid, we're gonna just kill you, we're gonna kill you, the spiritual community told me to kill you, I drank ayahuasca, you're dead, why are you even here, you're a ghost,
bro. Like, straight
you're
up.
a ghost, you don't even exist, you don't belong here, get your ego out of here. No, it's
trash,
like, no,
ego. Nah.
Your ego is needed. If you don't have it, you will not survive in life. If you don't believe that, then it's a bubble, and it will gladly get popped on its own. I don't have to do it for you. And it
gets a bad rep, but it's both good
needed.
and bad.
When you work with it, then it's great. And
exactly.
And then your ego could also be your confidence, your sense of, like, you need to protect yourself. You need to protect yourself, you need to protect your peace. It's a part of you. And when you establish a good relationship with your ego, you are protected. That is your shield.
It's actually like a drive.
It's
if
fun.
anything,
it's
too.
fun when you get to when you stop neglecting the parts of yourself that society tells you are bad, and you start actually loving yourself in those moments, even if you want to change it.
Damn straight.
Even if it's something you're like, okay, I'm gonna grow, I'm gonna get better. Like it becomes easier to do so.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Once you cross that line and don't give a f, like once you cross that line that's like that being 16 years old in Staten Island, New York, wearing skinny jeans during a rap era of like Eminem being on top and all this stuff, and you get to all this stuff, I was not popular. In fact, I was popular in one sense. The target. The kid that got shit on. Because it's like, yo, you wear skinny jeans, you dye your hair, blah, blah, you rock and roll like you're not a man. And it goes that way. But it's literally like that ego, literally, if it wasn't for it, I wouldn't be where I am today, because it gave me the drive to be different. Like, the ego telling you you're different could be just a start. It could just let you know, like, hey, like, tap you on the shoulder, like, hey, you've got something here.
Yeah.
You need to look into this, because it's really cool. And a lot of people might get blessed by it and love it. You know, that ego. It takes ego to get on a stage in front of 20,000 people at Madison Square Garden. It takes an ego, and you can let it either rule you, and your life will
Well, that's
check
why
your
you gotta balance.
check you real
That's why you
quick.
balance. That's why you have to call in your
Or
spirit
you
at the
own
same
it.
time. It's like you have the ego. Okay, now we establish
call
it.
it the
We got
spirit at the
everything
same
to get
time.
here. Now, okay, boom. Like we come here, we sit down. What do we do first?
Ego equals spirit.
What do we do first?
Where do we start?
Here, we prayed. We called in the spirit. I think it's important, if you don't want to call it prayer, if you want to call it intention, if you want to call it setting the space, you want to call it whatever you want to call it, whatever makes it good for you. But bringing in your spirit, like bringing in, activating that part of you. You have now, okay, now my physical body, my ego, my vessel is here. I got to this point. We're here. We're talking. We're moving. We're grooving. Okay, great. Now, how do I get out of here and into here? How do I allow this to open up? Which brings me to the cards that I pulled. How do we get into how do we remind ourselves who we are, right? We allow spirit, crown chakra, to flow through and get into our heart. Our heart is the bridge between our physical body and our spirit body. That is the center core of all things. Like if your heart chakra is out of whack, everything's out of whack. If any chakra is out of whack, of course it's imbalanced, but the heart especially. And that's something that I've been learning so much. And it's the center core, the binder of the above and the below. Now, how do you not lose yourself in a relationship? How do you not lose yourself in any circumstance, any situation? You allow space for that spirit, you allow space for the ego to coexist and not like bash either
Allow
side
space
for it.
to learn. And, you know, if you make a mistake, you learn from it, as opposed to, like, taking it as the ultimate wrongdoing.
Yeah,
You know,
or
like, if you-
disassociating from
Yeah.
it and just being like,
Well,
I'm not going to think about it.
Being humble and respectful towards it. It's like, yo, I'm not being nice right now, and you're showing me through my relationship that
Through
I'm
this
being an
mirror.
asshole. And I didn't even realize that. Like, realistically, that wasn't nice. Like,
Realistically,
you know?
also you learn the most. Like I feel like, and I'm not gonna say that's a bold statement, but just like I feel that most humans learn the most when you're actually in a relationship because the consistent mirror. Like you can learn a
every
lot
day.
by yourself.
It's
You know,
every
of course
day.
you can still choose to learn a lot by yourself. Like I know for me, especially like last year, I was like majority by myself, and like I feel like I learned so much. But like you apply everything you learn when you're in a relationship because you care.
Also,
like
but-
you
but-
care with yourself too.
Yeah,
But like I
but
don't know.
you have to keep
It's
up.
just different.
You got to keep up, because
It's
if
a
you don't, that
consistent
person's
leveling
gonna walk.
Or you are.
Or you're gonna walk if you can't
And
take it.
It's
If you can't take looking in that mirror, you know, something's gonna happen when you look in the
or
mirror.
you're gonna stay and you're gonna hate life and then
And
it's
be
gonna just
toxic and not being
manifest
very
all
nice.
the bad qualities in you, and that's still gonna be a mirror, and
Of
you're
course.
still gonna be dragged. So no matter
There you
what,
go.
and you're gonna lose yourself, and then maybe you needed to because you needed to find yourself deeper.
So, also connecting that, I feel relationships, the lessons you learn hit you 20 times harder after math. When the dust is
Oh,
still
hindsight.
settling.
Oh,
When the
yeah.
dust is still settling till you're healed again and you're not heartbroken, until that day comes where you heal, there's a lot to like look into that dust. You have to see through the dust and go, no, okay, that's not okay to do.
Yeah.
That's not good behavior.
Yeah.
And this is why that person reacted this way and caused this downfall of the entire relationship.
Or why I reacted.
Or
this
why
way.
I did, you
That's
know? I had to
something-
learn that.
You realize that, and that's something that's interesting when with certain relationships where it's like you have certain relationships where you can be like not like best friends but like acquaintances after, where it's not painful to be like, oh okay, like if you see them you had brief
Of course.
conversations and it's not unhealthy, right? And then you have those big breakups where it's like there's no
Lines were crossed.
talking,
Lines were crossed,
and there's,
bridges were
like-
burned.
yeah, and
Like-
and like just thinking back on that, like last year I was really unpacking a lot of that in a big relationship that I had, and in hindsight looking at it, there's like when you look at things and when you look at people that you no longer romanticize, when you look at them like a person and you're like, you're a person, you're capable of good, you're capable of bad. Sometimes we look and we glorify people and we're like, oh my God, this person, and we'll only remember the good. And sometimes we'll villainize people and we'll only remember the bad. But when you look at them as a whole and you really see them and you're like, wow, I accept how that happened, I can really let this go now.
Definitely.
I can really, that's because like there's such a narrative. Like I remember the beginning of that relationship breakup, it was like, I'm like, you are a villain. Like, you've done so wrong. What? Like, what is this? Like, how can I process? And like on paper, absolutely. Absolutely. You
Respectfully,
know? Like,
respectfully.
but
like,
then
not
also,
okay.
But why, given hindsight, I understand why.
Mm-hmm.
But even if I didn't have concrete proof on certain things, I intuitively knew the entire time. I didn't trust myself. So I had a conversation with him last year. We were able to have a conversation. And he was like, we should have had this conversation on the podcast. So that actually made a really great job.
Beautiful.
But either way, the conversation that had happened was like, essentially, I was like, I vilified you because you were the personification of me not believing in myself. You were the personification in me doubting my intuition. And I needed you as a catalyst to trust myself because I knew everything that happened before it happened. And I knew that I knew it. And I said it and I still didn't apply that knowing because it wasn't concrete enough for logical society. I didn't have proof of anything. I just knew.
Couldn't accept it at the time. Acceptance was the biggest thing that I had learned because this.
Just listening to other people outside our head once again.
Exactly. Like this girl told me, like I gotten some bad news about some stuff, and it was something that I'd been fearing for a long time. It was just that letter in the mail that you don't want, and the thing out of her mouth was just straight up like, you have really trouble accepting things. Because like I had someone that I had not to go too crazy and not to go too deep into the subject, but I had a drummer that passed on me, and I just like couldn't stop thinking about it for years, like every day. And it was, if I had learned acceptance, then you can look at it a certain way and it just won't hurt that way. Instead, if you're not accepting anything, like, yo, it happened, it's done. What's done is done. There's no bringing any of that back. There's no way you can get over it. So like you get hurt, for instance, I got an injury or something happened. Like I got tinnitus in my ears now. Guess what? That stuff usually doesn't go away and you have to accept. And it's about teaching yourself. And once you can accept things, then the little shit doesn't matter.
Once you can accept things, that's when miracles happen. That's how it's proven that people who have anything, whether it's, there was a study that someone had brain cancer. They accepted that they had a tumor. They named it. They were like, all right, little buddy, if we're going to die, we're going to be friends now. They went for a CAT scan. The doctor was like, whatever you're doing, your tumor's gone.
Woo!
The power of acceptance is a whole other
Woo!
thing. That's a superpower, and that's something that is gonna look, and it doesn't matter how many books you read. I mean, it'll help. You know what I'm saying? Books you read, different things, but like that's something that you need to learn. That's your own medicine. Is like how you learn that. That's your own medicine. That's how you figure that out, by paying attention.
As opposed to your poison, because if you don't accept it, guess what you're drinking every day, buddy? Like,
guess what you're activating every day.
Straight
when you're
up.
not activating your healing, you're activating this other
self-destruction.
And even when you are activating your healing, sometimes you have to activate these things that can seem like poison. And when that happens and you activate that, then you can actually identify and accept it.
It's growing
because
pains,
either way, it was growing.
It's growing
so
pain.
If something was growing and you're not paying attention to it, it doesn't make it not grow. Now, when you get bad news, say like you find out something, and whatever the case is, that's not healthy, either with your mind, with your body, whatever the case is, it's a blessing that you got to find it out, because then you have the chance to accept it and to transmute it.
Yeah.
So now, if you would have never found out, if you're like, oh, I would never want to know, then you would just be co-signing on your death.
You'd never grow.
Really?
You would never grow, because if I didn't get that letter, I wouldn't have moved my ass. Literally. Yeah. I didn't get that letter. Essentially, I wouldn't have changed up my pace, and I would have started wasting a lot of time, because it lights a fire under your ass.
It's crazy. It's like, even just like circling back to the topic of it, like, how do you not abandon yourself? How do you not abandon yourself in relationships? How, like, who are you? And it's like, what are you willing to accept? You're going to
find out a lot about yourself real quick. You're going to find out who you are. You'll be like, damn, like, I didn't know I didn't like this.
And especially, and that's the thing, like, sometimes when you're dating, you don't even realize that you don't have standards. You just think about like dead ass, like you're like oh like I like this and I like this da. But then something happens that you're like, ooh, I don't like that.
Dude.
Maybe that should be a part of these standards.
No, what am I
It doesn't have to
doing?
be a checklist, but it's just your own boundaries. If you don't have your own boundaries, you don't respect your own boundaries, people are gonna piss you off. Why? Because you're not respecting, you're not speaking on it. So you gotta elaborate. If you speak on a boundary and then they're not respected,
and you still
then
stay,
you gotta
and then you're
move.
still
You
chilling,
gotta move.
well, then you ain't gonna be very happy.
You're not. And the person isn't either, even if they feel like they are in the moment, because they're just, that's enabling. That's enabling another toxic behavior. So then you're both just contributing to each
in
other's
the mud,
demise.
in the quicksand, and it ain't
It
changing.
takes courage. It takes courage to accept. It takes courage to really, to unconditionally love and to accept people just as they are, without the need for control and to change. And even when you feel the need to control and to change, to accept that you're feeling the need to control and change. So then bringing back to the present and just accepting again. And that's a cycle. It's like, we're all not perfect. I have control issues. A lot of people do. I didn't realize it. They disguise in other ways. I'm like, fuck, okay, I'm learning something new all the time. And then I realized, and then I'm like, fuck, you trying to control some shit. And I'm like, all right, let it go. And then once I accept it, then I go back to my present self, and I'm like, but that's growth. But without another person, I wouldn't see it in the same
Absolutely.
way. And I would just be
Absolutely.
okay functioning in a judgmental and or controlling type way outside of myself that I wasn't
growing.
aware of,
Not growing.
because I wasn't able to apply it. And then you meet people and you participate in relationships and in that divine reflection in that mirror, and you really get to be everything you say you are. You get to be everything you say you are, or you don't.
Or you find out. You find out.
You definitely do.
Straight up. It's like taking the mirror and like, hi guys. I wish I
Yeah.
had a mirror here so badly. There's one over there, but I can't rip it
We
off
can't
the
rip
wall.
it out of the wall.
It's literally a door.
Yeah, I feel like that was really everything, man.
Doors and mirrors. And that's both.
It's like,
literally,
yeah,
it's a mirror
both.
door.
It is literally both. All right, man. I want to ask you something. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Uh-oh.
I mean, you brought your guitar, right? You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
You put it over there.
I don't know what that is. What is that thing?
What is that?
Never
That's
seen
the
that in
thing.
my life.
That's the thing you put over there.
Okay. What about it? It looks pretty, right? It's just furniture.
You want
use
to
this
play?
thing.
You want to play one chord?
I'll play a chord.
Do
Like a
a
song
little
bowl.
some, a little some.
A little something.
And then we'll leave you guys. I've been reading this book every day. It's Peace of Mind, Daily Meditation for Easing Stress. And it's one page. And we are going to have Jay read a page after he does. Or I can read it now. I'll read it. You know what? I'm going to read it.
That's cool.
I'll read it just because, like, I don't really like to read out loud because I stutter. And that's something that I get self-conscious about. But because I am doing my best to be my best at all times, I will do this for you guys. February 10th. Surely this must be an ancient proverb. If the situation is killing you, then get the hell out. Hugh Prather. At some time in your life, you may experience an emotional or physically painful situation. Perhaps you dislike your job so much that you feel tired and run down all the time. Maybe your relationship makes you so unhappy that you can't seem to concentrate on anything else. Maybe your son or daughter has an alcohol or drug problem and you're worried sick about it. Or perhaps you are continuing to work out with an injury that needs more time to heal. Imagine that whatever situation you're in is like a pair of tight, uncomfortable shoes. Obviously, you want to take the shoes off, but how? Start by being honest with yourself. There are situations in your life that cause you physical and emotional distress. Identify those shoes. Then explore resources that can help you remove those shoes. Make an appointment with your career counselor to discuss a career that's right for you. Ask your partner to talk about issues in the relationship. Attend an Al-Anon meeting to learn more about living with addictions. Consult with a sports physician about rehab program for your injury. Start today. You can take steps towards easing your pain. Staying in an impossible situation is impossible. Today, I'll think of things I can do or say to alleviate the pain caused by the circumstances or a person in my life. February 10th. Peace of mind.
So basically, in other words,
Everything we said.
everything we said,
In
get
one
out.
page.
Get out when it ain't right.
Yeah.
So this is a guitar. It's a pretty little thing. It's homemade, pretty much. You can't buy one of these. This is genuine, authentic self. Literally, like, you build it yourself. And you can't double that. You can't go and find that. You can't buy that. You can't see that on TV and say, I want that. You have to just own it, you know? So, I don't know. I don't know.
Thank you, guys. I completely switching up over here. Thank you.
Hey, there we go.
Hey,
Blues.
J Spades. Thank you so much. And we didn't even this is the thing, guys, I just be out here praying and then going. So I don't sit with all right, how can I explain who this person is? They just explain who they are. It's up to you to go find them. Okay. J Spades on Instagram.
G Spades 222, J just the letter. That's me.
Okay. And is there any other platforms or anything else that you'd like to plug in?
That's pretty much the only one I'm rocking right now.
Okay, cool. And that's kind of how it goes with the guests that come on here. The whole point is for them to just show you who they are instead of talking about it. That's a big thing that I've always said. People are like, who are you? And I'm like, I know who I am, but I don't really know how to explain it to you. So I'm just going to be it.
So I'm just going to pick up this guitar and let it talk for me.
Exactly.
Exactly. It does the work.
And everything that has been discussed prior, So thank you so much for coming on to this show.
Thank you so much for having me, Akasha. I appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you too, man. And
seriously, this was fun.
Everybody wants to know how you get those curls.
Oh,
so luscious.
Oh, I can never tell that secret.
I can never say they're dying to know the secret.
I can never tell anyone.
All right.
Okay, you have to go into it.
You can't tell them.
I can tell you a little bit. The ear tuck? The ear tuck? Oh, okay. So, you got big hair and you haven't gotten it cut in a while. All you have to do is hit this spot, tuck it back. Oh, it's already evolving. Hold on. And he's calm. And that's it. Mic drop.
There you go. The question you were all wondering this entire show. I just wanted to make sure that they received the answer.
They definitely need to go up to a mountain, grab the water, blessed water from an Appalachian mountain, specifically in the northeast coast of Mississippi.
Virgo.
And then you have to find the hawk's feather with the blue-tipped fin like a blue jay. And you can only find one because there's only 3 birds in the U.S. still. It's a very, very, very rare bird. You have to go meditate on him in the mountain, in the Cove Cave.
It's the only one.
And then you have
I don't think it makes sense.
Pet 17 cats a day.
Okay. I think that's pretty legit. Now you know the recipe.
The kitties.
Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. I hope you have an amazing Wednesday. And remain who you are no matter what. Remember that divine acceptance and whatever resonates and whatever sticks out for you. Thank you for tuning in. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Grazie.